Hello everyone, welcome to this Easter revision session on metacognitive strategies, particularly organising your time and your revision efforts over the next couple of weeks. You know exactly what metacognition is. It is the process of thinking about thinking, the process of thinking about you as a learner and how you can most effectively learn, revise, remember things for your tests after the Easter break. So, some of these slides you might have seen before. This one is certainly a popular one in my class. What I want you to think about over the next 5 minutes as we go through what makes an effective revision timetable and what you can do effectively to revise is to think about little and often rather than one big chunk. What none of your teachers want you to do is sit there and revise for hours at a time without a break. That's absolutely not what we want you to do. What we'd like you to do instead is just make small improvements every day, just do a little bit in a few subjects every day to ensure that you're confident, to ensure that you know the things that you need to know for your tests after Easter. Just a little improvement every day can lead to huge gains over time, as you can see from this graph here. And if you're interested, James Clear, who's the man who wrote Atomic Habits, that's a really good book if you want to get into lots of little positive habits and positive thinking for your day. This is another quite popular slide in my lessons. It's about the forgetting curve. Now you can see here on the blue line, that's essentially what happens when you learn something. When you learn something in class, you'll probably be able to understand 3/4 of it, maybe 80% of the information given out in that class. However, you'll start to forget this pretty quickly if you never go back to that learning. If you revise immediately after the class, your understanding can peak. You can start to draw together different information that you might not have considered in the class. If you revise it again, then again you'll be drawing together information that you've learnt previously. You'll be starting to knit it together into one coherent whole. And each time you go back to that learning, you'll be able to improve your memory recall of it. You'll be able to recall different facts. You'll be able to join those facts together into webs of information and webs of knowledge. So we're looking here not at revising one thing once and then forgetting it. We're looking at going back to the same things over and over again so that you're really confident in your ability to recall them. One of the most effective ways that you can overcome that forgetting curve is by interleaving your revision instead of blocking it. Now, a lot of students, when they start to revise or they draw together their revision timetables, they fall into the trap of thinking that they should revise, say, maths for a long period of time, let's say 2 hours in the morning. Now, you could do it that way, but that's not as effective as breaking down that 2 hours into smaller chunks where you'd revise a specific element of maths and then go and revise something else, and go off to science or to English or to history, and then come back to that maths at a later date or later on in that day, depending on when your test is. So it's much more effective in terms of you being able to recall information as a learner if you do little and often on topics and spread these out and plan in time to go back to them than it is to just revise them once and then not do them at all. You'll notice here that exactly the same amount of time has been spent on each topic, only the time has been split between 4 different revision periods rather than just one. I think you can see that if you did block your revision, by the time you got to topic 4, you will have forgotten quite a lot about topic 1. So this is an example of a revision timetable, and it's not a particularly good one. So if you pause the video for a second and you just Google examples of a revision timetable and look at pictures of them, you might find that a lot of those pictures are split by hour blocks, and they're also split into just vague subjects like this, like English, Maths, Science and History. This isn't the way to do it. This is not what I would like your revision timetables to look like. Instead, if we were following an interleaving strategy, we'd be much more specific about the topics that we wanted to revise first off. So in my revision timetable, instead of having something like English, I'd write Macbeth Act 1 Scene 5. Instead of maths, I'd write algebra, or I might write a specific style of question that I know I'm going to be weak at. That means that my hour blocks then become half an hour blocks, and throughout my day you can see that after a break for lunch at 11 o'clock I'm going to go back to those exact same topics. That's going to mean that by the end of the day, my knowledge of Nazi Germany, my knowledge of cell structures, my knowledge of Macbeth and algebra is going to be much higher than if I'd just done English in the morning, if I'd just done maths after that and then left it alone. So it's important to build into your revision timetable opportunities to go back to learning that you've done either that morning or on a previous day, so that you can really beat that forgetting curve that we saw earlier. So, just to summarise before I let you get off and do your own revision timetables, in order to overcome the forgetting curve and remember as much as you can for your tests coming up after Easter, think little and often rather than long slogs. None of your teachers want you to sit down for hours at a time just revising the same thing. Create a revision timetable that allows you to interleave. This might take a little bit of planning, but try not to fall into that trap of just blocking out subjects and having an hour or 2 hours on a vague topic like English. Break it down into smaller topics. Thinking of your time in 30-minute blocks is a much easier way of thinking in it than in hours. I know when we're in school we tend to think of our time between 9 and 3 as hour blocks, but think of it as half an hour instead and you'll get much more done. And then try to revisit topics more than once across a week, so don't just assume you have it memorized. Finally, I'm going to put a couple of links to some of Miss Childs' videos on Sketchnote and the Pomodoro technique into the description for this video, so that you've got a little bit more to think about when it comes to actually doing your revision, and those will be really useful for those of you who are doing especially pictorial subjects, things that you can draw pictures of and things like that. Thank you for your time, Year 11. Remember, if you need any help, you're always feel free to email me over the Easter break. Bye bye.